Hi, Seednet followers, friends, people who've randomly found us. I'm Rebecca. We're on video today, meeting with Nathan and Andy. Nathan shared with me a couple of weeks ago this idea about Seednet and how it relates to an outpost. It's really cool, and we want to begin introducing that to the Seednet community. Nathan, what's this outpost thing?
Yeah, Rebecca, it actually struck me thinking of the American Wild West and how there were what are called outposts, where people who were journeying out west would need to stop to get supplies, food, even find protection because they were traveling through a very desolate, wild, uncivilized land. And without the help of others, they often wouldn't make it. So, as I thought about that in our own American history, it really applies well to the type of churches we plant in the wild, desolate, oftentimes uncivilized parts of our world, and the way we plant churches as a part of Seednet. So that's where it came up out of, and I think we can apply it in a lot of unique ways to help other people get a good picture of what it is we do.
Just like a spiritual survival outpost instead of
Yeah,
like a food and water outpost.
right, right.
We have Andy with us here today. Greetings, Andy.
Hello.
Where are you today?
I'm in Detroit, Michigan right now, right across the street from my first stop up here.
You're
So,
literally at an outpost.
yeah, I'm getting ready to go pick up some guys and head to a different one. So, yeah, that's the day to day.
So I guess in Detroit, like the idea of the Wild West maybe
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily apply. So how does that work for you? How do
yeah,
you get your head around that?
sure. Well, the wild part uh resonates well with the guys up here. But honestly, like um it really relates anywhere we're at. So like when I'm in the streets of Detroit, or if I'm at home in Ohio, or anywhere else in between, the outpost analogy works because I think first and foremost, right at the beginning of First Peter, Peter calls his people the elect exile, and so like a Christian, we know whether you're in the West or in Detroit or in Africa, Central Africa, wherever you're at, we know that we're exiles here. So there's always this. If you profess to know Jesus and walk with Jesus, we know that there's always going to be things in this world that are going to go after us, that are going to hinder our walk. And so it's really neat that when we come to Detroit and we gather some guys together for the outpost here, the church here, um, we're really offering them this shelter as they are exiles. So they're not from here. This isn't their final resting place. They're just moving through. And so we can offer them things that help get through to the end. And it's a lot of times it's just we get them for a few years, or sometimes we get them for longer. But um, we're kind of a stop in the journey that Jesus has them on, and we get to take part in that protection. Nathan was talking about physical protection, obviously in the streets of Detroit and anywhere else. There is violence, there's that side of things, but there's a spiritual care that we offer them, and even food and water. Like sometimes it's physical supplies that we do have to give them, help pay rent or help make sure they have food to eat, things like that. But it's oftentimes just a stop that they're making throughout their journey, and we get to be part of that.
So in the simple church planting process, it really is trying to find these deserts,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
and it's funny because in the Wild West way of looking at it, like the outposts were out far away from
mhm,
everything, and it was
right,
a connection between this place and this place.
yeah,
But really now this desert can really be here's this neighborhood,
yeah,
this little bitty pocket.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times it's neat because I mean we do get to see a lot of people come to Christ, but a lot of times we're gathering these Christians that don't have that outpost. So between this apartment complex and that one, you're right. We kind of we create a safe place that, hey, let's get together. We give you your own church, a place that you can worship and grow and things like that. Yeah.
Nathan, you said yesterday, you sent a really beautiful piece of information. And one thing that I thought was really beautiful at the end of it, you said, praying like your life depends on it. And that's kind of what Andy's touching on right here. You know, in these communities, there's danger, right? In some cases, there's a real need of food and water, you know, helping with our partner churches and other groups that we work with connect to that. Or sometimes, you know, you've got water with you or whatever, helping connect to resources that can help with rent or whatever as needed, because we have a lot of those connections. But then there's that spiritual desperation that is crying within all of us, and especially in this desert that you're going out to find, praying like your life depends on it. Nathan, will you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. When you go into these communities, you learn quickly the importance of prayer, because you see so much desolation, so much desert, so much wildness and uncivilized stuff that the rest of first world countries would not think that happens in America.
Mm-hmm.
And when you press in and you drive through or you walk through and you start praying yourself and talking to other people and praying with them, it really does become a spiritual lifeline. And then a way in to the good news, a way into the gospel, the greatest news that they need, the greatest thing their soul longs for, which then of course leads to, hey, if you enjoy that, maybe your neighbors or your friends would enjoy that too. Let's sit down here at the picnic table or whatever, and in the middle of this desolate area, and bring life, the life of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really such a cool way of looking at it. Like this outpost, which you think of as like, oh, come get your nails and a hammer and water and a sandwich or whatever. Like it's this spiritual provision of those things. And it starts with prayer, which is evidenced literally by the way you start. You guys go in, you're riding around, you see somebody, and the first thing you think of is, will this person punch me in the face if I ask them if we can pray together? Right?
Yeah.
So, and not to simplify it, but that is how simple it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Outpost, it's just the spiritual feeding of that. And so that's the foundation of the Seednet Church. Nathan, is there anything, or Andy, is there anything else in outposting as it relates to you, or that we want to touch on today as we introduce this concept?
You know, I think it's a helpful picture for me, as well as hopefully other people, but for me, it's helpful because sometimes what we do can be very odd when you compare it to other ministries or other churches. So it's helpful to me because, oh yeah, that's why we're out here, because there is no other outpost. There is no other supply chain, spiritually speaking, that is going to meet these people where they are, give them Jesus, give them their own group so they can grow in Jesus and even help others do the same. So it helps me, encourages me to stay on point with our mission, which is to infiltrate these spiritually, emotionally, economically, and developmentally oppressed places.
That's a good reminder, because if another church is working there, you don't need to be there. That's one of the things on your checklist. Y'all are doing a great job. We're going to go look for another place where that spiritual investment is needed, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Andy, thank you for sitting in a parking lot in Detroit with us today. Nathan,
I'm glad I got to do that.
We're glad to see your face. Nathan, thank you for introducing the concept. We'll continue talking about this in the coming weeks. Hopefully we can get you back on in the future, Andy.
Yeah, let me know.